So the Eagles thwarted once again. That is the end of the third quarter, and 12 minutes remaining in this game. Plymouth Whitemarsh on top and in charge, 27-0. They will now take over on downs.
Yeah, and it now becomes a matter of the Eagles just trying to put some points on the board. With 12 minutes left and the way Plymouth Whitemarsh can run the ball, it's going to be real tough to get 4 touchdowns to go ahead. But right now the Eagles want to compose themselves, try and get another 3 and out, another quick stop right here, and then try and work the ball back down the field. They've done so nicely in this drive, but a fumbled snap and a couple of short runs prevented them from going any farther.
Well, this has certainly been an interesting season for the Eagles, and I think that they need to take some positives out of this season, even though they're going to finish probably 5-7 on the year. Oh, this game's not over. The handoff goes to Quinn. He picks up a few yards on the play, but they have got some young players, especially at the skill positions. Chris Blake is a junior, Troy Swittenberg, a sophomore. This team is building for the future, and that's not easy for the seniors to hear, but I think the Eagles' success will come in future seasons.
Yeah, they got a lot of production from their underclassmen, and they're certainly going to rely on those players next year. But I think they were taken as far as they were this year, to the point of coming back from a bad start, almost getting up to a 500 record, by really a lot of their senior leaders. A lot of guys who contributed for 3 years on this team and now really came into their own in their senior year. And it's just unfortunate they couldn't put a little bit more together for these guys.
Certainly the Eagles lost a couple of close games early in the season, had them, was it 1-4 or maybe even 1-5, I can't recall which. But they battled back, and we've seen steady improvement. Down on the field right now, that was Kelly on the carry the last play, brings up 3rd and 5 from the Colonials' 40-yard line. Paul Kupfer to James Scott. Scott in motion, has a first down. He is dropped by number 71, Ginyard, but not before picking up the first down.
And it's incredible how time after time there is room on either side for James Scott and Craig Quinn to run. It's a great job by the front 6, actually, including tight end Stu Kupfer, of turning the Eagles back to the inside. They're trying to get out there and pursue, but they really contain them well, keeping them all together in a bunch. And Scott and Quinn have plenty of room to run to whichever side they want.
Scott in motion again, but the handoff goes to Kelly. Kelly spins for a big gain, 7-8 yards, before he's dropped at the Eagle 44-yard line.
And Kelly's good at keeping his feet, but you can tell he's pretty much a straight-ahead runner. And for a guy like that to have 825 yards coming into the game and an average of almost 6 yards a carry, that's got to be credit to that offensive line.
Same set, same play. Dan Kelly ahead for a first down. He's thrown back, but I believe he was down to about the 40-yard line before the Eagle defense was able to take control. We have a timeout on the field called by the officials. Pardon me. No timeout. First down. I thought we were going to stop for a chance to bring out the chains, but the referee says he doesn't need that. Definitely a first down. So the Colonials continue to move the ball down to the Norristown 41-yard line. 9 minutes to go in this contest. Eagles switch up on defense. Little problem with the handoff to Quinn, and he somehow manages to bounce inside then outside. He's driven down on the far side of the field. Garvin Stewart makes the tackle.
And Jeff, that illustrates right there how the Eagles have not been able to penetrate the Colonial backfield today. Usually on a broken play like that with your back running into your quarterback, you're able to get somebody jumping all over that back just as he takes a handoff. But that time, Quinn was able to compose himself, take the handoff, and still find the hole. So the Eagles just not able to get any sort of penetration with their front seven.
Well, that's true. It brings up second down here for the Colonials. They're inside the Norristown 40. It's 2nd and 8. The quick handoff again. Kelly, the ball carrier. It'll be 3rd and 2 for the Colonials from the Norristown 34-yard line. Greg DeLucia comes out of the ball game momentarily, replaced by number 30, Jameel Butler. Another 3rd down play. They come with Scott straight ahead. Scott, I'll tell you what, puts his head down and dives for the 1st down over top of Audley Stewart.
Yeah, Scott had the marker in his vision, and he saw Audley Stewart coming up. Audley Stewart took him on, but James Scott was able to get low as well and dive across that 1st down marker. And right now it's getting the crucial territory for the Eagles. Plymouth Whitemarsh really running a lot of time out, using all 3 backs effectively now as they're inside the Norristown 25. And right now that's right about where the Eagles want to put up that defensive stop.
Scott in motion, flag on the play.
That's true. Haven't seen the Colonials take too much time yet today. But that time they were called for a delay of game penalty.
So it'll be 1st and 15 for the Colonials. They're moved back to the Norristown 34-yard line. Just under 7 minutes to go in this game. The Colonials with a commanding 27-0 lead. Same formation, sends Scott in motion. The deep drop sets up the screen out to the outside to tight end Kupfer. And I tell you what, he got over Audley Stewart, but I believe he stepped on one of his teammates' helmets, which threw him into a dive and stopped the play.
Yeah, that teammate is feeling it right now.
It's Brian Dugas, yeah.
Yeah, Dugas was a guy locked up on Audley Stewart, and Audley Stewart took him on pretty well. Managed to reach out, and I think may have got a piece of Kupfer's ankle, but it was stepping on Dugas that originally brought Kupfer down.
Three-yard pickup on that play brings up 2nd and 12. They go to James Scott around the end. Zitzer misses the tackle. Milligan misses the tackle. Hamaday knocks Scott out of bounds, and James Scott with a nice pickup on the play, nearly 10 yards. It'll be 3rd and short for PW.
And James Scott knows how to run, and when he gets to the outside, he has a tough handle for those cornerbacks out there. That time Milligan did get a good piece of him, slowed him down pretty well, and A.J. Hamaday had to finish him off to get out of bounds. And as evidenced by that delay of game penalty, Plymouth Whitemarsh is certainly taking their time now. They are in no rush, just going to run the clock out. Happy with the way their offense is working right now and happy with the points they have on the board.
The handoff goes to Kelly, the fullback. 1st down. But I tell you, they are a machine, Walt. Norristown's opportunities in this game came early. The Eagles' inability to capitalize, and then the errors that they made themselves, especially in the latter half of that 2nd quarter, really put them behind the 8 ball and in an untenable situation. They really didn't have much chance to come back in this ball game when Plymouth Whitemarsh established that big lead.
Yeah, and you're facing a team that's won a state playoff game in the past 2 years and has been in the playoffs the past 2 years. So you don't get to that point if you don't know how to win a game and finish off a game and take advantage of mistakes and, all that good stuff that they say wins ball games. And they certainly know how to do that. With a 3-pronged running attack like this, it keeps the other defense so off balance and allows you to run the clock out. That's what wins you the championships, is that ability to grind it out and run the ball. And they've only had to throw the ball they haven't even had to throw the ball, but they've only thrown it 4 times today, giving Norristown a little bit of what Central Bucks West gave the Colonials.
That play was Kelly for 3 yards, brings up 2nd and 7 as the Colonials continue to grind it out. This time Kupfer on the quarterback sweep there. Knocked out of bounds by Darrell Johnson. Kupfer tucked that ball away. Took to the left side. Picked up several yards on the play, and it's going to bring up 3rd and a yard from the Norristown 7-yard line. I tell you what, Walt, this drive has been going on since the beginning of the quarter. The Norristown Eagles have not touched the ball here in this 4th quarter. Down the middle, a diving Scott.
And Jeff, if Norristown was going to put up any points, this was the quarter to do it, because they're going with the wind and with that passing attack, and we saw them be successful with the passing attack with the wind a little bit in the 1st quarter. This was the time to do it for Norristown to run and gun a little bit and put some points on the board, but Plymouth Whitemarsh just refusing to give them the ball.
My apologies, that was Matt Kincaid, the ball carrier, number 21, in for James Scott. Kincaid hurtling through the air down to the Norristown 1. It's 1st and goal from the Eagle 1-yard line. Kelly, touchdown. And that was a huge hole opened up on that right side.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a hole as a cavern. They just sort of made a nice big pocket for Kelly to walk into. And as Kelly jumped into it, he just sort of sat down. He was just looking for that end zone, just laid down in the end zone. But Plymouth Whitemarsh knocked Norristown about 2 yards back off the goal line. And Kelly had to meet no blue shirts as he walked across the goal line.
Matt Fold on again to attempt the extra point.
You tell me towards the end.
Kick is up. It's good. So the score now up to 34 to nothing. The Eagles have simply been dominated today by a fabulous football squad from Plymouth Whitemarsh.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I missed that one. Fold didn't put that on the baseball field that time, did he?
Well, that was into the wind. Can't expect him to be that overwhelming into that 40-mile-an-hour wind. So Norristown will finally get to touch the ball here in this 4th quarter. And, I'm sure Roger Grove was hoping, geez, we're going to have the ball in the 4th quarter with the wind. That'll be our advantage. And Joe Iacovetti comes up with the perfect game plan to defeat that. Hold on to it yourself for 8 full minutes.
Absolutely. Again, that is the way you win. That is the way you win playoff games. And they know how to do it. And that is also the way you extend our drive chart, because we are at the max. 16 plays that drive goes for 65 yards. As you said, about 8 minutes. Wow, what a drive. Just pound the ball down the field. 65 yards. Adding up to their big 34-0 lead and taking out a little bit of their frustrations from the playoff loss 2 weeks ago.
A low kick. It's going to be taken by Vaughn, one of the up men at the Norristown 28-yard line. Vaughn into trouble, though, in the middle of the field. Short run back will set the Eagles up 1st and 10 from about their own 34-yard line. Well, let's talk a little bit about the standouts in this game. We'd like to pick an MVP from both sides of the field for Norristown and for Plymouth Whitemarsh. Tough to do in both instances, I think. But first, we'll go down to the field. The shotgun, the snap to Blake, the handoff to Swittenberg. Swittenberg into the secondary, picks up about 9 yards on that play.
Yeah, it's very tough to do, considering that Plymouth Whitemarsh uses all their backs well. Obviously, they've played excellent defense. Norristown hasn't had any points today, so they're putting up 34 points, but their defense is also shutting out the Eagles. So it's a tough call. Really, anybody on that Plymouth Whitemarsh side could deserve it. And Norristown looks like they're still trying to develop here and come out with their MVP.
One of the players I liked early was the lineman Yeboah Kabold. We called his number a lot on defense early in this ball game. The pass goes out to Prinsati. Well thrown ball by Chris Blake. Prinsati won't go out of bounds. Great effort by Paul Prinsati. Runs that ball down the sideline. Big gainer for the Eagles into Colonial territory and out of bounds at the 38-yard line.
That's an MVP play right there from Pranzati to be down 34-0 and still put out that kind of effort. Yeah, Jeff, I like Cabold too. He's played well on both sides of the line. Really, he's been playing on that side of the Norristown offensive line that's been opening up a lot of holes for Troy Swittenberg to get through. And he's provided a lot on defense, even though the Plymouth Whitemarsh Colonials are up 34-0 here. He's really provided a couple of big stops.
Blake up top again, into trouble. Boy, I tell you, that was quintuple coverage there. Jim Zitzer unable to reel that one in. It was slightly underthrown. So it'll be 2nd and 10 for the Eagles again. From inside the Colonial 40-yard line. 3 minutes to go in this contest. Well, let's grab those running statistics for the Colonials. It's tough, as you say, with all 3 backs doing so well. Scott certainly has had the most yards today.
Yeah, James Scott just on that last drive just went over 100 yards, so certainly not a huge game for him based on his season stats. He's had 13 carries for 101.
The snap to Blake. He's got time to throw. Pranzati again. Oh, wow, he got stuck at the end of that play. Great job by Paul Pranzati.
Yeah, he is tough, boy. That's why Chris Blake likes him so much. He really finds open holes well, and you know that anything you throw his way, he's going to catch, and he's love to throw it to him on the sideline because you know he's going to keep his feet in bounds too. And he just runs great routes and never worries about taking a hit and never coughs up the ball.
Pranzati with another reception, another Norristown first down. We're down to the Eagles are down to the 26-yard line of Plymouth Whitemarsh. This time the handoff to Swittenberg. He's into open territory. Touchdown! The Eagles on the scoreboard. Troy Swittenberg. It's a 27-yard run for Norristown. And the Eagles avoid the shutout here with 2:43 to go in this ball game. Swittenberg almost seemed to be in slow motion there, Walt.
Yeah, he just coasted right through that hole. And I'll tell you what, that's a great run by Troy Swittenberg. He's been a horse all day. He's really worked hard, but I'm giving it to Yeboah Cabold for that block right there because Troy Swittenberg had 27 easy yards to the end zone.
So Morano sets up for the extra point attempt here. The snap is high. Blake gets it down. Morano gets it up, and it's good. So the Eagles on the board at 34-7. And Walt, let's talk about those MVPs. I like Cabold too. I think he's our choice on the Norristown side. Yeboah Cabold, the lineman who's done such a great job on offense and defense today under daunting conditions.
Yeah, that play right there really sealed it up. And on the other side, I like the other guard for Plymouth Whitemarsh, B.J. Murray. They use a lot of motion on that offensive line. They do a lot of pulling, and they have not had one penalty on the offensive line today. Murray's really pulled out a lot for James Scott and given him 101 of the easiest yards I've ever seen.
James Scott, you're right, would have been my choice, I guess, with the 100-yard rushing day, but that offensive line did such a tremendous job today for the Colonials. They really owned the field. I tell you, if we could give it to the entire offensive line, I would. But to pick one player out of that offensive line, let's go with B.J. Murray for the Colonials.
Well, we got the cornerstones of our All-Madden team here on our Thanksgiving tribute.
Did you bring the drumsticks?
Yeah, going with a couple of offensive linemen. But really, I mean, Troy Swittenberg's had a great year, and all those Norristown players today have been just grinding it out all the way to the end, and they finally get some points up here. But B.J. Murray's just been excellent. Both those guards, he and Steve Miller, they do a lot of pulling and a lot of motion out there. I'm just impressed by the fact that they haven't taken one penalty up there with all that motion. That's really a well-coached team. They are a machine on offense.
So with 2:43 to go in this ball game, the Eagles will kick off. They trail 34-7. Gave the crowd a little bit of excitement here. Morano with the onside kick. The Eagles look to recover. Fumble loose. Norristown ball. There we go. Something to cheer up the crowd here as this game winds to its conclusion. You might say by where that ball was recovered that it wasn't a legal kick, but that ball actually crossed the 50-yard line and then was knocked back, and the Eagles managed to recover at their own 47.
Yeah, I think Plymouth Whitemarsh, in an attempt to recover that ball, dove across at it, knocked it back, and Norristown was able to just throw a couple guys on top of it.
The snap to Blake. Blake with the pump fake, goes deep. Prinsati, oh, no flags. Oh, yes, there it is. Paul Prinsati was deep in the pattern. He was bumped by Courtney Pope, the cornerback, and he gets the call. Pass interference against the Colonials.
Yeah, and Pope's going to argue that it was incidental contact. He's just running down the field and their feet get tangled up. But Pope, at that point, they didn't believe we're playing the ball. They didn't believe that Pope was playing the ball, and they're going to get him for interfering with Paul Prinsati.
So the Eagles, with that penalty, 1st and 10 from the Colonial 37-yard line. Still 2:40 to play in the contest. The handoff to Garvin Stewart up the middle. Stewart picks up 5 on that play, makes it 2nd and 5. Blake, the short snap, goes to the outside again. There's Prinsati. Prinsati shakes, tackles. Well, I tell you, what an effort. 1st down for the Eagles down to the 20-yard line. Maybe we did Paul Prinsati a disservice by calling that MVP with 3 minutes to play in the game.
Yeah, he's playing like an MVP, that's for sure. Now they're in a spot where the Eagles can throw the ball a little bit. And this is important for the Eagles. If this is going to be a year-to-year rivalry, Norristown has to leave a little calling card here. I don't think they were totally dominated as much as the score says. Just some of the mistakes have cost them.
Well, that was an odd snap. Almost went over Blake's head. He calls time down on the field. That ball went straight up in the air. The wind held it up for Chris Blake, though, so he could reach up and snatch it out of midair.
Yeah, he had to yank it down to give it to Troy Swittenberg. Swittenberg actually had to hold up so Blake could get a handle and hand him the ball. But as I was saying, Jeff, it's a calling card for Norristown. They have to say, you know, year to year, we're going to be able to play with you guys. We're going to put some points up on the board right here, and you're going to see the same guys next year. We're going to put points up with Chris Blake. We're going to put points on with Troy Swittenberg, and you're going to see these guys, Swittenberg for 2 more years and Blake for another year. So while Norristown was, looks like the score says that they were absolutely beaten badly today, and there's definitely no question that Plymouth Whitemarsh is a better team right now. But we're going to do this rivalry every year. Norristown's going to want to do something right here to say, see you next year.
Norristown certainly hurting this ball game by turnovers and problems with special teams. That second quarter just bedeviled them on punt attempts. 2 fumbled snaps, a failure to down a punt that was then carried into the end zone by Whitman for a touchdown. And then the quick score off the fumbled kickoff at the beginning of the third quarter really sealed the victory for the Colonials. So special teams a real killer for Norristown today. The pitch to Blake. Zitzer downfield, he's got it, touchdown! 6 points, Chris Blake to Jim Zitzer, and I tell you what, that was one heck of a pass.
Jim Zitzer runs that pattern extremely well. He's mostly a flanker. A lot of motion for Jim Zitzer, a lot of blocking responsibilities, but that time they released him into the secondary, coming across the field, running to the corner, and Chris Blake just floated it up. Jim Zitzer, good hands to haul that thing in like a tight end, break a tackle, get across the end zone goal line.
Morano will attempt the extra point again here for Norristown as the Eagles strike quickly, converting off the onside kick recovery. Good snap this time. Morano's kick is up. It's good. That one also sails into the parking lot here at Roosevelt School, and the Eagles are down by 20, 34-14. But as you say, it's got to make these kids feel good to put 2 touchdowns up on the board late in the game here. Certainly showing outstanding effort on their part.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Zitzer get that touchdown. He's really done so much grunt work this year. He is in on every play. He played some defense today as well. But that time ran a great pattern to get across the field and find some open space. And obviously Chris Blake's primary receiver, because that's who he was looking to the whole time. And Zitzer made it pay off.
Chris Blake doing a fine job here in the waning moments of this ball game, connecting beautifully with the wind at his back. But as you said earlier, Walt, not necessarily easy to throw with the wind at your back. You've still got to gauge what the effects will be on each and every play.
Yeah, I think the way you judge it is into this wind today. If you're throwing into it, it's impossible. If you're throwing with the wind, it's possible. And if you're smart like Chris Blake and the receivers, has good receivers who can adjust to the ball, you can do it. But you do have to be smart about it as well so that something doesn't sail on you for an interception.
So Morano will kick off once again. This time the short kick is taken by one of the up men and covered at the 38-yard line. That was number 5, Steve Fulmer, covering that kickoff. So the Colonials will come out onto the field with 1:30 to play. They lead 34-14, and the host Eagles will lose this game. But I like the momentum that they've generated here at the end of this contest, and I especially like the way it showcased Chris Blake and his abilities, and that says a lot for next year's squad, and I'm sure Roger Grove feels that way as well.
And it lets you know that you're never out of a game, because Chris Blake can take you down the field very quickly. And that's something that Norristown's only been able to score quickly with the big play. Now they can actually drive the ball down the field in a short amount of time.
And we have substitutions in the ball game for the Colonials as Coach Iacovetti allows his second team to get some action here in a Thanksgiving Day contest. That quarterback is Steve Fulmer, number 5. The running back that time was number 7, Brian Tornetta. No gain on the play. So it'll be 2nd and 10 for the Colonials. Can't say enough about the great job that Coach Iacovetti has done over there. Finishes this season 11-2 and really put together a powerhouse team. They send the man in motion, the handoff up the middle. There's a hole there, about 5 yards on the carry. The ball carrier that time, number 27, Justin Pratt.
It's important to build a program, but I think what Coach Iacovetti's done is build a tradition. And now if it's a winning tradition, it's like you have to win every year because you can't let the guys before you down. And it's a team now that expects to win all the time, expects to get to the playoffs, and they're disappointed when they don't.
We're down to 15 seconds to play. This very well should be the last play of the ball game. The handoff again goes off the left side to Justin Pratt, close to a first down. We've got 6 seconds to play. 3, 2, 1, and that's it. The game is over. The Colonials, a solid victory here in a Thanksgiving Day matchup on a windy Roosevelt Field. The final score, 34-14. We'll be back in just a moment with a post-game wrap-up. The final score once again, 34-14. Walt, it was a tough loss for Norristown, a well-played game by the Colonials. Mistakes hurt the Eagles, and certainly when you play a team of the caliber that Plymouth Whitemarsh has this season, you can't afford mistakes.
Yeah, the mistakes are going to kill you against a team that good. I also think that it teaches you that you can't make mistakes overall. To be a program like Plymouth Whitemarsh, you really have to eliminate the mistakes. That's the point that Norristown is trying to get to, and what they saw today was mistakes like that are always going to beat you against a team like this.
Even though the score, 34 points for the Colonials, I think the Norristown defense did a commendable job. Certainly that last drive of the game where the Colonials converted for the long touchdown drive, ate up more than 8 minutes of time, really demonstrated their dominance in the trenches. But barring that drive, the Norristown defense really did a reasonable job of stopping the Colonials. Too many short fields the Eagles gave up.
Yeah, Norristown put them in a position where all they had to do a couple times was go 15 yards. And especially at crucial times, what happened was those short drives really put Norristown out of the game. They weren't at the end of the game when the Colonials were just padding their lead. They were really at the beginning when the game was still hanging in the balance. So when they made those mistakes, really nothing much the Norristown defense could do. With a great rushing attack like the Colonials have, they're going to put it in from 15 yards.
The Eagle offense struggled a bit. They had some early success, weren't able to convert it into points on the scoreboard. They were deep into Colonial territory, down to about the 25-yard line before turning it over on downs. They also, though, in that fourth quarter, in the last 2 minutes, were able, though, to turn it up a little bit. Chris Blake with some big completions to Paul Prinsati. Swittenberg with the big run in for the touchdown at the end of the contest. Norristown puts 14 points up on the board in the fourth quarter and avoids the shutout, but the offense struggled a bit today.
Yeah, I think avoiding the shutout is crucial. Very important for them to end the season like that. You certainly don't want to see it all over the papers. It was 34-0. And it really showcased the diversity that their offense has developed this year, and I think that's the way they're trying to go, not key so much on those running backs and keep the defense sort of off guard. But other than that, they really struggled when it counted in those first three quarters. Troy Swittenberg had some holes today, but the Plymouth Whitemarsh linebackers and safeties really just came up to close down anything that Swittenberg had initially, and they weren't able to throw the ball after the first quarter.
Talk about diversity, that certainly epitomizes the Colonial offense. Those three backs were used to perfection today, and we didn't really call his name all that much, but quarterback Paul Kupfer really did a great job of engineering all that down on the field.
Yeah, they run a lot of motion, and the backs are always in motion. They don't run any sort of eye or wishbone or anything like that. It's always Scott coming from one side or Quinn coming from the other side. So it's up to Kupfer to really run that and keep control of it, and a couple times he did have to roll out and throw. He did that well as well.
Certainly our MVPs today had to be the offensive line of the Colonials. We especially singled out B.J. Murray. You mentioned it many times. He really did a super job of pulling from his position, being out there as a lead blocker today. Yeah,
it's impressive to see, especially at this level of football, that much activity in the offensive line. They have the size, so they could probably go straight ahead. But with the backs being so good at running around the outside, that power sweep with the guards pulling is really important. And Steve Miller, the other guard, did that as well when they went back to the other side. So I think the whole offensive line was tremendous. Murray is just one example. No penalties for that offensive line, and that's just astounding with as much as they run the ball.
Well, it was a long season for Norristown. Started off tough, came back in the middle of part of the season towards the end. Really did a great job with some big victories. Brought it back close to 500. They finish on a loss, but where does it leave them for next season?
Well, I think it leaves them with definitely some players at the skill position. They're going to have to replace a lot of both sides of the line, a lot of seniors up there, but I think it really leaves them with a leader in Chris Blake, and that's important because coming in this past season sometimes it's been a little unsure. Who's our leader? Who's going to take us? And I think right now that's Chris Blake for them.
Norristown finishes the season 5-7, finishing on a blustery Thanksgiving Day here at Roosevelt Field, but we hope you'll join us next season when the Eagles come back out for their final season in the National Conference of the Suburban One League. Should be interesting playing those powerhouses one more time.
Yeah, it's going to sort of be a statement. Now they can walk over into the Suburban One American, and if they have a good season next year and say, hey, we handled those guys, let's see what you guys can give us now. But it's definitely going to be a lot of fun next year in that final year because Norristown's going to be able to just go all out, try and make their playoff run.
Hopefully today, the beginning of another long-standing tradition on Thanksgiving Day as the Eagles take on the Colonials of Plymouth Whitemarsh. They'll be playing these same Colonials in divisional play in 2 years. We want to, of course, thank the Norristown Area School District that brought you this game. Mr. Tony Koya, the Director of Communications, Mr. Sam Galbraith, our Director today, assisted by Garrett Hickman and Azad Sharozian. We want to thank Greg Fry for his great stat work all season long. With Walt Fry, I'm Jeff Brandon. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next year.